Welcome back to English SpekNest, the podcast where we don't just talk about English, we talk about how to live in it. The words, the pauses, the confidence, the human moments between the sentences.
This is one of our favorite topics we've ever covered, and I genuinely think if you listen all the way through, something in the way you talk to people is going to change today.
All right, welcome. I'm Ethan.
And I'm Olivia, and we're so glad you're here, whether you're listening on your morning walk, on the bus, at the gym, or hiding from your coworkers in your car. We see you, we respect it.
Hiding in the car is honestly a valid life strategy. Half of my best thinking happens in a parked car.
Can I just say something before we start? Ethan walked into the studio today, and within, I'm not exaggerating, 10 seconds, he was already talking to the new sound guy like they'd been friends for a decade.
Marcus? Yeah, great guy. He's learning guitar, he hates cilantro, and his dog is named Waffles.
10 seconds. It took me 3 weeks to learn my last neighbor's name.
And that right there is exactly what we're talking about today.
Okay, so today's episode is about something that sounds small but changes everything. Small talk, but not the painful kind. We're talking about how to master small talk using one skill that confident people use constantly, and most of us were never taught.
Observation.
Observation. Not questions, not rehearsed lines, just noticing. And we're going to break down exactly how it works, the psychology, the specific phrases, a 3-word magic starter that Ethan loves, and how to use it at parties, at work, everywhere.
And fair warning, we're going to tell some slightly embarrassing stories today.
Slightly embarrassing? Mine involves an elevator and a complete stranger's sandwich.
Okay, see, now you have to stay for that. So, let's start with the problem. Olivia, describe for me the average small talk conversation at, say, a networking event.
Oh, no. Okay, it goes like this. Hi, I'm Olivia. Hi, I'm Dan. So, what do you do? Oh, cool. How do you know Sarah? Nice. And then we both just stand there, holding our drinks, staring into the void.
Staring into the void. Yes, and both people are thinking the same thing. Please, somebody rescue me.
Why does that happen, though? Because we're asking questions. Isn't that what we're supposed to do?
Here's the psychology of it. Generic questions feel like an interview. Think about it. What do you do? Where are you from? How do you know the host? Those questions have short, dead-end answers. You answer, the other person answers, and there's no energy exchanged, no curiosity sparked, nothing to grab onto.
It's like a checklist. Question 1, question 2, and when the list ends, the conversation just dies.
Exactly. And here's the deeper part. Generic questions put all the pressure on the other person to be interesting. You're basically saying, entertain me, give me something to work with. And most people freeze under that pressure.
Oh, I feel attacked. I've done this to so many people.
We all have. It's nobody's fault. It's just the default script we were handed.
Okay, so what do confident conversationalists actually do? Because I've met people like you, like what you did with Marcus this morning, and it looks effortless.
It is effortless, but not because of talent. Confident conversationalists don't ask better questions. They make observations. They walk into a room, and instead of reaching into a bag of generic questions, they just look around. They notice things, and they say what they notice.
Give me an example. Right now. Look at me like we're strangers.
Okay. You have the energy of someone who has a very specific coffee order and gets genuinely upset when it's wrong.
That's rude, because it's true. Oat milk latte, extra shot, and I will wait in line again if it's wrong.
See what just happened? I didn't ask you a question. I made an observation, slightly playful, slightly exaggerated, and you immediately gave me real information about yourself, and you were laughing while you did it.
Wait, that's actually wild. If you had asked me, do you like coffee, I would have said yeah, and that would have been the end.
That's the entire episode in one moment, right there.
And listen, if you're enjoying this conversation and want more English podcast episodes like this one, don't forget to subscribe to English SpekNest and turn on notifications so you never miss an episode. Okay, Ethan, keep going because I want the how.
So the first tool is specificity. A specific observation creates a natural opening because it proves you're actually paying attention to that person, not running a script.
Okay, so instead of,
Nice party, huh? Which goes nowhere, you say, you picked the one chair in this whole room with the best view of the snack table. I respect that.
okay, I would talk to that person immediately.
Right? Because it's specific, it's about them, and it's got a little humor in it. You've given them something to react to. People don't connect over questions. They connect over reactions.
And it makes the other person feel seen, like you actually notice them out of everyone in the room.
Hold on to that word, seen. We're coming back to it later, because I think it's the heart of this whole thing.
Okay, second tool. You mentioned exaggeration earlier. How does that work?
Slight exaggeration is the spice. You take something ordinary and you blow it up just a little. Not lying, just playing. Like someone mentions they went running this morning and you say, wait, you run voluntarily in the morning? You know there are people who would call the police on that behavior.
That's so dramatic, and I love it.
The exaggeration does two things. One, it adds energy. It makes the moment fun. Two, it invites the person to defend or explain themselves, which means they start talking, and they start talking with emotion.
Oh, so they go, no, I have to run. I have a crazy dog who, and suddenly you're in a real conversation about their dog.
Exactly. And now you know they have a crazy dog. That's a thread you can pull.
I love that the humor isn't a performance. It's just turning the volume up slightly on what you already noticed.
Third tool, and this one might be my favorite, implied stories.
Implied stories. Okay, break that down.
Instead of asking someone to tell you about themselves, you imagine their story out loud. You say something like, you seem like someone who has a story about why you ended up in this city. I don't know what it is, but it's there.
Oh, that's good, because now they want to tell you the story, either to confirm it or to correct you.
Exactly. Curiosity is a magnet. When you imply there's a story, people feel this little pull to fill it in. And here's the beautiful part. Even if you're wrong, it works because people love correcting a wrong guess almost as much as they love confirming a right one.
It's true. If you said to me, you seem like someone who was the troublemaker in high school, I would be like, excuse me, I was the president of the debate club. And then I'm telling you my whole life story.
The debate club president has entered the chat.
Real quick, what would you do if someone at a party said, you look like someone with an interesting story? Would you open up or would you shut down? Think about it. Hold that thought, because we're going to show you why this works on almost everyone.
Okay, you promised a story. The elevator, the sandwich. Go.
Okay, so a few years ago, I get into an elevator in my office building. There's one other person, this woman, maybe mid-40s, holding the most enormous sandwich I have ever seen. Like, structurally unsound, engineering marvel.
Structurally unsound sandwich. Great start.
And old me, checklist me, would have stood there in silence, staring at the floor numbers. But I had just learned this observation stuff, so I took a breath and I said, I bet that's not your first time ordering that. You grabbed that thing with confidence.
Oh, there it is. I bet that. The 3 words.
The 3 words. And Ethan, her whole face lit up. She goes, you have no idea. Every Friday, my husband thinks I'm at a spin class.
No. The sandwich is a secret?
A secret Friday sandwich affair. We talked for 4 floors, about the sandwich, her husband's health kick era, her favorite deli. When the doors opened, she said, and I'll never forget this, you know what? You're the first person in this building who's ever actually talked to me.
Wow.
And I think about that a lot. She rode that elevator every day, surrounded by people, completely invisible.
And all it took was one person noticing her sandwich.
You know what that story really is? It's not about a sandwich. She didn't feel connected to you because you were clever. She felt connected because for 4 floors, she felt seen.
That's the word. Seen.
There's this loneliness epidemic everyone talks about, right? And we imagine it requires big solutions. But honestly, most people are starving for something tiny, for someone to notice them, to say, I see you, and you seem interesting.
And the crazy thing is, it costs you nothing. It costs one observation.
Okay, so let's put it all together because this is where it gets powerful. A magnetic observation combines all 3. Specificity, plus slight exaggeration, plus an implied story.
Curious. Give me the formula in action.
Okay, so imagine a guy at a coffee shop with paint on his hands. Generic question would be, are you an artist? Dead end. But a magnetic observation is, okay, I bet that's paint, and I bet whatever you're working on is taking over your entire apartment right now. Because nobody gets paint there from a small, well-behaved project.
Oh, you've got the specific detail, the paint, the exaggeration taking over the apartment, and the implied story. There's a project, there's a life behind this.
And what is that person going to do? They're going to go, oh my gosh, yes, I'm repainting or actually, I'm a teacher and today was art day with 5-year-olds. So either way, they've handed you a thread, a real one.
And threads are the key, right? Because a conversation isn't one comment. It's not a firework. It's more like a trail of breadcrumbs you follow together.
Exactly. That's the next skill, building threads. When someone responds to your observation, don't abandon it and jump to a new topic. Pull the thread. Wait, art day with 5-year-olds? What does paint day with 5-year-olds even look like? Chaos? Every answer contains the seed of the next moment.
So a great conversation is just never letting go of the thread until it naturally runs out. And then here's the beautiful part. You make another observation and grab a new one.
Now, an important piece. And I want to be honest here because I've gotten this wrong. You have to read the other person's energy.
Tell me about getting it wrong.
Years ago, at a friend's dinner party, I noticed the woman across from me had barely touched her food and kept checking her phone. And I, in my newfound confidence, went full playful observation mode. I bet you're secretly texting about how to escape this dinner. And she just looked at me with these exhausted eyes and said, my mom's in the hospital. I'm waiting for an update.
Oh, Ethan.
And I felt this big. But here's what I learned. Observation isn't just the opening move. It's the entire game. If I'd actually been observing her, I would have seen the energy first. Tired, anxious, somewhere else. The right move that night wasn't a joke. It was something gentle. You seem like you've got a lot on your mind tonight. No pressure to chat.
And that probably would have meant more to her than any joke could have.
Yeah, so the rule is, observe the person before you observe the detail. High energy, match it with playful exaggeration. Low energy, go soft and warm. The technique serves the human, never the other way around.
I love that. The technique serves the human. Okay, let's talk about work, because I know a lot of our listeners are thinking, great for parties, but I need this in meetings, interviews, conferences.
And honestly, professional settings are where this shines brightest, because everyone else is using the generic script. Everyone's asking, so what do you do? If you walk into a conference and say to someone, you've asked 3 questions in every session today, and they were all the questions I was too scared to ask. I bet you're the person your team counts on to say the uncomfortable thing. Do you know what just happened?
You just gave them a compliment, proved you were paying attention, and opened a conversation about their work, all without a single interview question.
And people remember that. Nobody remembers the 47th person who asked what they do. Everybody remembers the person who noticed something real about them.
It's funny, in professional life, we're told to network, and it feels so fake. But observation-based conversation isn't networking. It's just being genuinely curious about a human being. The opportunities follow.
All right, we teased it at the top of the show. Let's land on the 3-word phrase, I bet that.
Curious. Why does this specific phrase work so well? Because I felt it in the elevator. It just slid into the conversation, no friction.
Here's the psychology. I bet that is technically a guess, not a question, and that's everything. A question demands an answer. It puts the spotlight on the person. But I bet that puts the spotlight on you first. You're the one taking the risk, putting a guess out there. The other person doesn't feel interrogated. They feel invited.
And people love responding to guesses because there are only two outcomes. You're right, and they get to go, "How did you know?" Or you're wrong, and they get to correct you, which people secretly love doing.
It's a win-win. There is no losing move. I bet that's your usual order. I bet you've been coming here for years. I bet you're the organized one in your friend group. Every single one opens a door.
Ethan, I bet you use this line at least once a day.
See? You just did it. And now I have to answer. Yes, constantly. This morning I told Marcus, I bet there's a story behind the guitar. 10 minutes later, I knew about Waffles the dog.
Waffles. The system works.
And here's your homework, listener. Seriously. This week, use I bet that 3 times. The barista, the coworker, the person next to you in line. Just 3 times. And then come back to the comments and tell us what happened. I genuinely want to know because I've never seen it fail to open something.
And what would you do if someone used it on you? Be honest. If a stranger said, "I bet there's a story behind that bag, that book, that smile," wouldn't a tiny part of you light up?
So let's bring it home. Everything we've talked about today, specificity, exaggeration, implied stories, reading energy, I bet that, it all lives inside one mindset. And honestly, I think it's one of the most freeing sentences I've ever heard.
Say it again, slower.
Slow, warm. You don't need to be interesting. You need to be interested.
When I first heard that, I almost cried, I'm not going to lie, because I spent years believing that connection was a performance, that I had to be funny enough, smart enough, impressive enough for people to want to talk to me. And that pressure made me worse at conversations, not better.
Because pressure makes you perform, and performance makes you invisible. Funny how that works.
And the moment I let go of trying to be interesting and just got curious about the person in front of me, everything changed. The woman with the sandwich, the guy at my friend's wedding who builds boats in his garage, the nervous intern at my office who turned out to be a chess champion.
A chess champion. See? The world is full of chess champions and secret sandwich Fridays, and we walk right past them every single day.
Because we're too busy worrying about what we're going to say next.
That's the real lesson. Small talk isn't small. That 4-floor elevator ride? For that woman, that was the moment she stopped being invisible that day. You never know what your one little observation means to someone. The bar is so much lower than you think, and the impact is so much bigger.
You might be the only person who really sees someone today. That's not a small thing. That's everything.
All right, my friend, that is our episode. Whew, I feel like we went places today.
We went from awkward elevator silence to a secret sandwich love affair to the meaning of human connection. Classic English SpekNest.
Thank you so much for spending this time with us. Truly. Whether you're here to improve your English, your confidence, or just to keep us company on your commute, we're honored you're here.
And now we want to hear from you. What do you think about this topic? Have you ever had a conversation that started with a simple observation? Or are you going to try I bet that this week? Tell us in the comments. And remember our challenge. 3 observations, 1 week, then come back and report your results.
And bonus points if it involves a sandwich.
Double bonus points if it involves a dog named Waffles.
If you enjoyed this conversation, please subscribe to English SpekNest, turn on notifications, and share this episode with someone who hates small talk. You know exactly who they are.
Until next time, stay curious, notice people, and remember, you don't need to be interesting.
You need to be interested.
See you on the next episode.
Bye, everyone.